Good evening, everybody. 6 o'clock. We welcome everybody to our Finance Committee meeting. That doesn't look like we have anybody virtually attending. This evening, we have three items to discuss. This will not be a very long meeting. The first is approval of the minutes of August 24th. The second is a discussion, a request by the Berkshire Hills Regional School District for a participant on the building committee. And the third will be an introduction to the budget process, just a little overview as to where we're going. The first point on the minutes that was circulated, I did receive one comment from an associate of mine, Mr. Belfance, that suggested that they should be altered slightly so that the overall tax revenue for the town could be achieved with reasonable growth, instead of the comment that I made in the minutes that the growth would satisfy need. That will be corrected on the final draft. Are there any other comments relative to the August 24th minutes?
I'll move their approval.
I'll second.
Any discussion? There being none?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, minutes, 8/24, 7-0 approved.
I got it. Yeah. I know I keep asking that question. You'd think I'd remembered.
Okay, next. The next item is a request that we have from the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. As you were aware, the district is planning for a new high school, okay? The school will accommodate, and these are numbers that were given to me by Peter Dillon, from the three towns, that's West Stockbridge, and Great Barrington, 552 students. That's what Peter has suggested. He also suggested that there are discussions ongoing presently that there could be a broader regionalization of education to incorporate the Southern Berkshire District, which would expand that facility from 552 to approximately 700, with 8 towns participating, Sheffield, Egremont, so forth and so on.
So that's like 150 more students from all of Southern Berkshire?
From Southern, oh, that's correct, right. That their enrollment is much less than Berkshire Hills. Berkshire Hills is in the process of developing a grant, okay? And the grant is subject to a study, feasibility study. And the grant is done through the Massachusetts School Building Authority to fund a portion of the new high school. I don't know the exact amount that would be funded, but there is a time frame for this study. It runs about 270 days before it has to be submitted. A committee has been formed for the Berkshire Hills Regional School District, and it's comprised of the three towns, Stockbridge, West Stockbridge, and Great Barrington. And basically, Peter Dillon, the superintendent of schools, has asked that Stockbridge participate with a member of the finance committee on this board. And I don't have to get into the details of who's on the board, but basically, do you need a list of the names? There's educators and Stephen Boyd and a whole host of people. The committee's purpose is to not only develop an educational plan, and this is in limbo with respect to the Southern Berkshire, but also to consider vocational training, inclusion of vocational training, as well as conventional education, and also to have ultimate projected numbers. And then there would be the maintenance and building of the new high school. All these components are part of the grant process. And basically, the one issue that is outstanding at this point is where Southern Berkshire stands in the entire process. Now, a series of meetings is contemplated. A schedule of 9 meetings has been sent that our representative would have. And toward all of this process, I would recommend Steve Schatz be our representative on this committee. Steve not only knows the political dynamics from formerly being a selectman, but also has the involvement of the finance committee, and really has been involved in the process peripherally for many years. So basically, I open it up for discussion. Any further questions? Are there anything I missed relative to the process, Michael? I think that's about where we are right at this time. Yes, sir.
I'd move that Steve Schatz be appointed the finance committee member to that committee.
I second it.
Okay, hang on one second. That would be Belfance first, Bruce.
No, Georgia.
I'm sorry, Georgia. Second,
Martha.
and on the previous one, it was Steve on the minutes first.
Jim.
And Belfance.
Yes.
Okay, any discussion, any questions, comments, or discussions relative to this? There being none?
I have one question,
Please.
and that has to do with if they're going to work on a grant and a program, I would assume they are going to proceed in those areas with the 500, based around the 500 students. What happens if, this is like, I don't want to say put the cart before the horse, but what happens if the two school districts merge?
Diane.
How can that school,
Diane, could I answer? I'd like to
Yes.
answer the question, but I'd like to answer the question
Yes.
only if I'm appointed,
oh,
okay? So perhaps there's a motion.
Okay, so we have a motion.
And a second.
And a second. All in favor?
I,
Anybody approve? Anybody opposed? Okay, 7-0.
Thank you.
Comment.
Thank you. I'm crazy for doing this. No, we're down to 9 meetings. There actually are 10. They had one already, but we couldn't get to this. This committee, fortunately, is not involved in anything other than sort of shepherding the grant application through to the state building, school building authority. It's not involved in the decisions about merging the two school districts. This is a building committee.
Correct.
This is not it's a committee, by the way, without any authority whatsoever. It's advisory only, because the authority to make decisions about this rests initially with the school board, and secondly with the town meetings that have to approve
right.
in the 3 towns. All right. Now, having said that, and so going to 9 meetings and spending a couple of hours every Thursday is not a terrible burden when you don't have to deal with a lot of the politics. I will tell you, though, that the 8 towns in Southern Berkshire Regional School District did send a letter to the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. Some of you may have seen it. It's not the most complimentary letter you'll ever read. And it suggests rather strongly that it's not likely that they are going to be a party to a combined one single school district, unless something miraculous happens. So I can't tell you, sitting here, I cannot tell you what's going to happen. And it looks as if it's more likely this year to get a grant application in that it's going to be based upon the 3 towns. The 3 towns, I don't know. Michael, what is, I mean, is Richmond sending kids
The tuition.
they're sending kids to the school. Will Richmond ever participate in this?
Not that I'm aware of.
No,
They're just tuition.
just tuition, that's it, okay.
They're wise not to.
Excuse me? Well, anyway,
I think the one,
so just to be clear,
Stephen, we need to clarify one comment. The
Sure.
8 towns include the 3 towns, Stockbridge, West Stockbridge, and Great Barrington, plus the southern Berkshire towns.
no, there are 8 towns actually in the southern Berkshire. There's Egremont, Sheffield, Ashley Falls, Sandusfield, Otis, Mount Washington.
Are they all separate?
Oh, yeah, they're all separate.
Okay, so
It's
separate.
It's 5 and South. It's an 8-town regional school district is what we're proposing.
Yeah,
It's 5 and South.
I think some of the towns tuition into the other one.
They're combined.
Okay,
They're still the
I
3.
stand corrected.
But also to answer that question, there's 2 parallel things happening at the same
Right.
time. And actually, Patrick and myself are
Yeah.
on the board that is looking at the combination and of putting the 2 districts together. So basically, the 2 will be happening simultaneously.
And our authority is very limited. The scope of our obligations is very, very limited.
Right.
So
It's building maintenance based on what the enrollment
it's
is.
fulfilling the grant requirements.
Right.
That's it.
Sure.
The political decisions are here.
Right.
Okay, good, God bless them, good luck to them. And ultimately to the town meetings. So,
I think the point being that with Steve appointed to the committee, you'll keep us informed, obviously of the process, because the meetings are about once a month, on an average of once a month.
yeah,
So, Jim?
Steve, what's the anticipated time framework on getting the grant submitted?
well, the grant has to be submitted within 270 days.
Days of the
So
start.
you're looking at almost a year?
I forget what date they actually started.
I think they started October 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first meeting they had, October 13th, so count 9 months from that date. And then there's a process, the evaluation. I mean, this proposal is one of who knows how many that will be coming from high schools all over,
Sure.
or from school districts all over the Commonwealth. We've been rejected before. We were close to being accepted once before, but
In answer to your question, the first meeting was October 13th, okay? We missed that, obviously, because we had to convene. And the last meeting of this committee is June 8th, 2023, okay? So sometime following that meeting, there'd be a drafting of the document for the state.
I do have a question about my appointment, because when you appointed David St. Pierre as a school committee member, was he appointed to this committee by the select board?
The RSDPB,
Yeah.
that's a moderator appointment, and Sean Stephen is leaving the school committee, so there may be an opening starting next month.
That committee was
Yes,
established
so-
from the moderators.
If you know anyone who's interested in being on the school committee, we're looking for right
No,
now.
the only reason I asked the question is, does this body have the power to appoint me? Or is it the select board that does it?
I don't see why they couldn't. They've asked the finance committee to submit.
Was it a specific request from the school district?
From Peter Dillon to me.
Okay, that's fine.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, and I met with him subsequent to.
That's fine.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to do
I
anything.
don't think there's an issue here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be sure.
And if there is, we'll get it done in the next meeting.
Yeah.
So basically, more to follow on this, and obviously, this is a big situation, needless to say. And with this process, ultimately, comes a redeveloped contract between the 3 towns. We're talking about that, in the next few years, no?
Unless there's the expansion of the district. The agreement isn't changing.
No, okay.
Give me one chance.
All right, any other questions relative to this at this point? It's important and we have to deal with it. Okay, that's the second item. The third item is the budget process. And basically, as we move into the budget process, I would, let Michael comment on what we have in mind. It'll be similar to last year. We have several big projects out there. One will be the intersection, what ultimately ends up as the solution to that. And also what happens with the Curtisville Bridge, is another issue that will be discussed as we go along. Michael?
Yeah, so the budget process will begin in earnest in January. Requests will go out to all the department heads. I'll get all the information back in by probably the third week of January. Put together the initial draft budget based on their requests, and then start with meetings in February to begin formulating our budget plans between the select board and the finance committee. The projects that are, we last year we tackled a number of projects, and all those are in various stages. So we've got the Everett Road Bridge engineering happening. We did receive a $100,000 small bridge grant to do that engineering for that bridge, which I had anticipated. If you remember the borrowing that we did, I had minused off the expectation of getting funding for that.
That's the engineering, but not the construction.
But in order for the small bridge, you have to complete the construction.
Of course.
And then it puts us in line to then go after the $500,000 construction funds. And then we had the remaining about 500,000 in that borrowing of 4 million. So everything's in line right now. I'm fully anticipating being able to get both, and that should work out. The engineering is underway on the Tuckerman Bridge. I'm hoping by the end of November to have that work done, and then the Chapter 85 review begin, and hopefully have that out. That won't be out for construction probably next year, or probably be the summer of 2024. So that project's moving along also. You'll see down at the highway department, a lot of the equipment's already purchased and completed. So a lot of those projects are all moving ahead. Looking forward to projects that aren't, that we haven't tackled yet. As was noted, the intersection, there's been some discussions, and at some point we will be deciding on a final to move forward. The crosswalks themselves, we received a $137,000 grant to do the crosswalks in front of Town Hall, Elm and Main. And we're gonna use $40,000 of the Winter Road Assistance Program that the town received from the state, which every community received a portion of it. It's part of the transportation money. They put it out in what they call the winter, like I said, road assistance program. You can use it for your reconstruction of sidewalks, crosswalks, roadways, and the rest. So we'll be able to fully fund that portion of the project between the between the two grants. So we won't have to tap any funds from the town at all. But it does leave the remaining end of the intersection. We have the Curtisville Bridge. That one probably within the next couple of months, we need to start thinking about and holding some meetings to discuss which direction we're going to take. We had a design grant that went into effect, which will so it puts a deed restriction on the bridge that Mass Historical has final say. That expires in 2025 because we never took any construction funds. So if you don't take construction funds from
We have to
Mass
pay it back.
Historic within 10 years, then the deed restriction is lifted. So we need to just be thinking about what the plan is, what we're going to do with that bridge. Dredging is another major capital item that is on the horizon. And then the walkway from Pine Woods to Church Street. So those are the 4 projects that I am aware of.
What was the third one? I missed it.
So we have dredging, Curtisville Bridge, the walkway from Pine Woods to Church Street, and
Right.
intersection. It doesn't mean we'll be doing all these, some of these, any of these within the next couple of years, but they're the ones that are on my radar right now. We met today with our consultants on our water. We're having the water master plan done along with cost estimates and the rest. That should be completed by this spring, and that will begin laying out what we need to do as far as our water system. We also have phase 3 of our stormwater and sewer system study being done. They're cameraing all the system, and that will identify those costs for future projects that we need to do, especially around I&I. So those are the big ones. I don't know what's going to come of those, but once those are out, that information will go to the select board and to the finance committee and water and sewer commission.
What are we dredging? Did I hear that?
Lake, that's been in progress. That's been going for, I think, 12 years.
Dredging, yes, of
Yes.
course.
And then we have all the routine, the departmental requests and,
Departmental requests.
and, you know, obviously we need to make sure that our salary structure is competitive with the marketplace. We have a superb staff, and it's very difficult to recruit people, and our people are in demand, needless to say. So, you know, we want to retain. Jim?
I have a question on the intersection.
Yep.
As I understand it, we're getting, what was that, about 175,000 in grant money?
So the 175,000 is to do the crosswalk in front of the town. Originally it was all part of one project, but we broke it out to go after a shared street grant.
Okay,
So it's $175,000 to put a raised crosswalk here in front of town hall, and then redo the crosswalks at Elm and Main and make them ADA compliant and the rest. It's $175,000 total. We received a $137,000 grant from the shared street program, and then we're going to use $40,000 from the winter road assistance program to complete so we'll be able to complete that part of the project, not tapping in any reserves or taking any town funds.
so then that leaves the cost of the intersection itself, and what is that going to
It's
be?
approximately $550,000.
And at this point, we have no grants at all to help cover that, right?
Well, we haven't finalized the design and rest, but if we do, we will go after grants. I'm also keeping a close eye on money that's coming out for the infrastructure money. Even though we've set ourselves to be able to cover the costs of, say, the Tuckerman, I also think that if it becomes available, that we can supplement that with some grants, that we'll also look at that. I'm looking at MassWorks for that. So we're going to continue to look at all those and see what we can do. And we could look at possible grants for the intersection, but we need to figure out exactly what we're doing. We knew what we were doing here, and we use that application funding and the rest to go after those.
Steve, you had a comment?
Jim, you
Go ahead.
want to follow
Well,
up?
I just had a follow-up comment to that, and my comment is that as you move forward with this, I really think it should be stressed to the state that the problem with that intersection is not caused by Stockbridge residents. It's caused by traffic through our town, and as a result, the state should step up and fund a great share of that $550,000 it's just my opinion, but I think we should press very hard from the select board and anyone else who has any influence, Smitty Pignatelli or whatever, because it's not a Stockbridge problem caused by Stockbridge residents. It's a Stockbridge problem caused by traffic. Thank you.
And it is a state road.
Right.
On that right there.
And we will go after
Yeah.
funding, once we can determine exactly what we're asking for, and then whether that intersection, what program it would fit within.
Yeah.
So just basically, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, last year, Mike, you laid out the strategy, the debt and bonding strategy in anticipation of, major debt indebtedness for new school.
Yeah.
And it would be helpful at the beginning of the budget process, again, if you could lay that out for us and your current thinking, given, obviously the status of existing bond indebtedness that we just did this year, and more potentially more bond indebtedness for other projects. But I think it would be a good idea to have that up in front of everybody so that they understand it.
Yep.
And particularly the public needs to understand that the thinking here is strategic. Okay?
Yep, it will be laid out just like last year.
Good.
And again, we'll be meeting with all the department heads as we have in the past. So any other questions at this point?
I have a-
Premature.
I have a-
Diane?
The overall big picture, the dollars, I would assume you have some idea as to the total amount of dollars for this budget, that not specifically, but kind of generally, that you're going to be in the same kind of spending ballpark that we have been, and that there's not going to be big spending beyond where we kind of usually are.
Diane, you're so subtle.
Huh? What?
We're so subtle.
Say, Diane, within inflationary
No,
tolerance.
forget that. It's,
So she's talking about capital projects.
yes, I
Same
should have
same
said it
question.
that way. But it has to do with, it has to do
Transitory.
with, I come from the world of cut your losses. That's a whole different thing. But if you have to sometimes, you can't tax us to death. I don't mean you, but we can't be taxed to death with project after project. So if you have to pick and choose sometimes and hold back because we are in this inflationary period, we just may have to be a little more choosy as to how we operate with spending of the money. And we have to be, again, a little frugal and considerate with the overall amount of dollars.
There are a lot of economic factors that have to be.
I just have plain talk here.
And I think it's similar to what Steve just
Yeah.
stated, which was we specifically lined up things to fall into place with that falling off, so we had no.
Oh, I understand
It's
that.
about smoothing it out.
Yeah, I get
It's
that.
Large spikes one way. or
For sure, I get that. Okay,
Yep.
all right.
I also wanted to know if anybody had any requests as far as formats or anything else. I know I created an Excel. It's much better to look at in a computer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I just hope when it's sent to us, it's readable. I mean, the print last year was so small, it took a magnifying glass to be able to read it on the computer screen, even trying to blow it up
You
and
know, it's
everything.
Excel, you can blow up.
Yeah, but you blow it up and then you lose everything.
So what I'll do is I will hide all but the last 2 years of actuals, and then it'll still be there for those of you that know how to use Excel. You can unhide those fields, but I'll shrink those down, so when you get the first copy, it'll definitely be more easier to see initially. And then for those that want to dig into looking at the past numbers, because as I've said before with the Excel spreadsheet, I'm just going to continue to be building off of it so that we can always look back and see what we did back from the year 2020 when I started, and just continue to move forward, looking at exactly how did we come to where we came to.
Patrick, you had a point?
Yeah, I just want to address Diane's point. I think there's a couple of things that the town's done the past year to try to position us so that when this federal infrastructure money is available through the state, we're in a position to take care of it. We'll have the I&I study done, and then there'll be the opportunity to perhaps look at that. Other potential, sewer planning. We're trying to, actually, the water and sewage put on the agenda for next week to really try to take a look at getting the engineering around what priorities for sewer might be ready so that we can apply for grants for that. We're applying for a big grant around dredging. Michael and I have a meeting next week with someone there. And then obviously with the standard, bridge and road grants, of course, we plan on doing those. I think it's really important, like you're saying, to try to be sensitive. I would also point out that in the short term, we are still way over in terms of reserve funds and, and now as inflation is going up, we can take a look at applying those to more of the capital projects as we
Sure.
determine we have to do them.
Oh, I get it.
Okay, anything else, folks? There being none, I would,
I move we adjourn.
6:30. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.